I will get started with my spiel. How's that?
Yeah.
So I'm Paul. I'm the reference librarian at the Coos Bay Public Library. This is my first virtual poetry event. As about a month or two ago, I started making all my programs virtual because our library is physically closed for the unforeseeable future. Amelie's from Jefferson, near Salem, right, Amelie? Amelie, sorry. You'll have to keep correcting me, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
But Amelie and I had planned a poetry anthology event a few days before the library closed. Unfortunately, I had to call her and call it off like the day before the event. So I was very sad about that, but I'm very excited. She has decided to do my first poetry event with us here. Annis now lives in Coos Bay, but also lives in Bakersfield. She's participated in some of my local author events at the library in the past, as has Tom as well. Tom lives in North Bend, and all are published poets. Amelie's published a variety of different things, including editing some anthologies. Annis has published a book of poetry. Tom has a number of books of poetry published. I think he's in a number of anthologies too. And we have more virtual events coming up. If you want to check it out, go to coosbaylibrary.org. One of the reasons I wanted to do this event is, for me right now during this whole pandemic, for me, art, all forms of art are very important. And I don't think artists are getting enough credit right now for providing what I think is essential for my sanity. For instance, I've been listening to a lot of music. I've been enjoying a lot of books and poetry, looking at photos and art. And that's what helps me keep sane. So I'm thankful for these authors for being here. Does anybody, oh, Carol, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Awesome. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, happy to be here. Hi, Annis.
Hi, Carol.
Carol has also participated in local author events at the library more than once, so glad to see her as well. So I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody but myself and the speaker. But as I said earlier, after each author reads for about 15 minutes each, we'll do a lot of Q&A at the end. But if you have things to say in the meantime, please feel free to use the chat box, use your hands. Also under reactions, you can clap and give a thumbs up at the bottom. The chat box is right in the middle. Does anybody have any questions before we get started? All right, let's do this. Hold on a second here. Let me do the meeting. I always forget how to do this at first. There it is. Okay, now I got to unmute Amelie. Bear with me. This is my first poetry event. All right, Amelie, you ready?
I'm ready.
Rock it.
All right. So thank you, Paul, Annis, Tom. I'm delighted to be here. I'm not going to say any more. I'm just going to jump right in.
Thank you.
So, the wind. This morning as I walked along the lane, I heard the curdled coos of ring-necked doves. The sky was that emphatic blue of old-fashioned tinted postcards and dotted with puffy clouds strewn like daisies across an expansive field. I set out from the top of the hill where proud firs stand guard over swaying cottonwoods. The trees are interrupted here and there by newly mown hay fields, grazed by goats and horses. Now and then a deer leaps with fluid grace over a fence into the woods where patches of wildflowers have sprung up in pools of sunlight. Further down the hill, past the 7 little houses and the 4 bends in the road, the meandering lane T-bones the highway, where loud trucks hurry and people and cars drive importantly. At the top of the hill, amid rural serenity, the wind blows from the north. At the bottom of the hill, at the lane's end, the forgetful wind blows from the south. So it is with the vagaries of life. This one's called Wet.
Nice.
A small, thank you. A small bird forages on the sodden ground of winter, flitting amongst wet grass, tall teasels, and bird's nest seed pods of Queen Anne's lace. Brief beams of sunlight escaping through tiny tears in the dense clouds write equations onto the blank page of saturated soil with bare tree limb shadows. Are these images sent from the universe to describe new ways to decipher life? Are they any less valuable than a scientific formula? The bird makes twiggy footprints in the mud, his marks as important as shadows or words.
That's very descriptive. Nice.
Okay. Ancestors. I hear them at times, but I'm not sure whose they are. I guess it doesn't really matter because we're all the same species. And once all ancestors shook bone rattles and shamans told stories of beginnings and gods. Once they were all brown hunter-gatherers who ate berries and herbs and meat. They lived short, sparse, harsh lives. Were they happy? Did they know the meaning of kinship? Did they know they would die so young? Soon enough they knew that and more. Once all ancestors were a collective voice. But since then we have learned to differentiate between yours and mine, drawing lines and erecting barriers. Once, long ago, so long ago that only shadows remain. Then we were alike. We hunted, we ate, we slept, we had children, we died. Not so much has changed, except now we see differences where once there were none. Okay, this one's called Can This Be April? But it's really cold here today, so it could be any time. Can this cold and sullen day truly be April, the first month of spring? The sun has cuddled up in clouds, and the bold buds that braved March have gone back to bed to sleep a little longer. When the sun decides to rise once more into clear skies to warm the earth and beckon forth reluctant leaves and flowers, then spring will recommence with renewed vigor. Blooms will burst forth, and trees will grow straight on in towards summer. Okay, come up. Okay.
Oh, you are reading off the computer. I thought you had them memorized for a second.
Oh, no. I don't I don't use my mind for that. I got enough stuff in there. I don't need to do that. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to think about it every day, every moment of every day. I say I understand, but unless I have to think about it all of the time, I don't. Not really. I don't have to think about every word I say because it might be taken as a threat. I don't have to guard against unintended aggression or intimidation in my speech or actions, or even casual conversation that could start an argument or just a minor ruckus. I don't have to be careful every time I drive my car or walk down the street, at least not more than usual. No, I don't have to think about the many ways my words and deeds or just being can be misunderstood. Unless, of course, it's how a woman's actions can be misread. That I do understand. But being white doesn't give me the slightest glimpse into being black or brown or anything other than white and straight. And as a man, you can't begin to understand the daily dangers of being a woman of any color until the day comes that all people are safe and don't have to think about it, about the hate that springs up for no particular reason. Then no one is truly safe. Nothing. When the Big Bang exploded into the void, what was it that existed before? Was it something or nothing? Even nothing must have been something if it received the energy that was released. I can't comprehend absolute nothingness or absolute potential, although in a small way I can imagine the Big Bang. From the primordial infinitesimal thing, that initial spark or particle, to the burgeoning expansion of it, where did it come from and why did it explode? And if it was released into nothing, how could a void, a nothing, recognize something enough to embrace it, as space now supports the universe, or as a womb nurtures a fertilized ovum? Does nothing have dimensions? Does it have edges? Is it measurable at all? Does it end? And if so, where does it go when it's finished and used up? Is the inside of my mind limitless? Does an idea end or evaporate because no one hears it anymore? Or does it go where universes go when they have ceased existing in something and collapsed into nothingness? I wonder. Stitching time together. There is no before or after. We have merely strung things together to look like a seamless piece of fabric and named it time. We supplied it with weight and mass and invented history to give it context. We added a soupçon of value, bias, law, appreciation, drew conclusions, and made declarations about more than we can ever know or see. If, as quantum physics suggests, there is no stream of time, only events, then we must find new ways to explain ourselves to the universe. Oops, that's the wrong one. Okay. All that glitters, grab it. Grab it now while it still glows warm and sweet in your hands. Honey and sunbeams and marigolds. The end of the day shines golden rays out of the western sky. Savor it. The stained glass wings of a dragonfly veined in gold and silver, delicate and swift flash rainbows in summer sunlight. Fires of heaven scorch night skies with heat and light, shining, glinting, dancing sparks, and the lambent sulfur yellow of rising full moon. Catch it while it's still there. All of it in your hands. Catch and hold it close to warm you in winter, in the depths of despair, in the days to come when lions walk no more, and bright sandy beaches are submerged beneath salty seas, when forests lay black and burned under smoky skies, and leafy bowers banished, no longer shading mushrooms and moist earth from scorching sun, too hot after layers of atmosphere have dissipated. Grab the golden days of life. Reap the harvest of corn and pumpkins and goldenrod, of buttercups, honeysuckle, autumn leaves, golden all, more precious than man's desires of acquisition and power. Grab the still soft sunshine and hold it close. Hold the butterflies and goldfinches, golden eagles, dandelions, and all that makes life rich for heart and soul. Grab it. Grab it now while it still glows, warm and sweet in your hands. Honey and sunbeams and marigolds.
Very cool.
Quantum entanglement. I said I was studying this. It has an epigraph from Rumi. There is a window between heart and heart. They are never separate like two bodies. Once touching, forever touching, a bond too enduring to end. At the quantum level, there is no time or space, making all connections immutable. As with love and poetry, such bonds are always here and now. No immeasurable stretches of space, nor even death, can erase love. The message contained in a poem can resonate over time and culture, across continents, and still mark the arrow, and still the arrow can find its mark, A poem can resonate over time and culture across continents, and still the arrow can find its mark, able to penetrate hearts and mind with beauty and wisdom. I lost my place. Sorry about that. Okay. Oh, don't do that. The Grove. Atop a hill to the west of town, off the highway to the ocean and up a steep path, was a grove of white oaks. Old trees, tall and stately, their presence scented the air with wisdom, awe, and the stillness of a sprouted cathedral, not one made by man. The atmosphere was old, elemental, and radiated a feeling of belonging that enveloped me in a welcoming embrace. If I could have grown roots then and there to push into the hard soil and stay in place on the hill, in the ground, with the grove, I would have been happy, content to become one with the trees and all the others that stretched as far as the eye could see. Okay, and I think this is my last one. Thank you.
All righty.
Shall we dance? On a Monday evening at the coast, only a few people were in the lounge listening to the piano player. We were with our husbands, and she asked me, "What do you think they'd do if we danced together?" "Who cares?" I said. So we danced, laughing, jumping up and down, swaying to the music. Years later, when I saw her at a party, she was divorced with her new partner, a woman. That was the mid-1980s, and it became clear to me then why she had asked about dancing, because it was so important to her. I've been married for a long time and have no interest in a romantic relationship with anyone else, but in the ensuing years, I have danced with other women to music and to the rhythm of feminine intimacy. We talk of personal things the way women do about emotions, life, and philosophy. I have many heart sisters, women with whom I share some aspect of life, who know what it's like to be married or single, how to get along in a world where masculine and feminine energies are out of balance, or yang overpowers yin. I love men, but I also love my women friends. We understand each other on a cellular level, a blood level. Blood sisters. On a moonless night when the sky is clear and cloudy, I open my arms to the universe. I call to the energy of the unknown, to the mystery, to the wonder. I open myself to the faraway suns, spreading my arms out to catch and embrace the fall of stars into my arms. I have heard men say that women are a mystery, and I know the unknown can be frightening. Yes, women are one of life's mysteries. We give birth, we bleed, we suckle our babies, we imagine and comprehend, we dance and sing, we make love, we create. What's not to fear? We are pure energy and potential, and when standing in a line hundreds of miles long, hands joined, we have the power to create change, to birth peace. The stars fall into my waiting arms, filling them with burning brilliance, but I live, I thrive, I glow. I am filled with the elemental power and splendor. I become sparks of radiance as I dance to the ecstatic joy of metamorphosis. I am light blazing across the night sky. Thank you. That's all.
Very cool. Thank you, Amelie.
Thank you.
Really quick, somebody said, "I love that one." I said, "I can't stop thinking about nothing." I'll probably be thinking about nothing for a few days now. And you got some beautiful images and emotions, immutable connections. Love that. Thank you. You are light indeed. Beautiful, very powerful. Thank you guys. Keep adding to the chat. We're going to move on to Tom now. And at the top of the chat, I have put how to access all three poets' works. A couple of them have emails. I think Annis has a website. And so you can go there. I'm also recording this. If you email me later, I can send you a copy. But now we are going to move on to Tom. Hold on. Let me change my mutes here. And Tom, it's all yours.
Okay, you can hear me, right? All right. Well, first of all, thank you, Paul. I appreciate the invitation, and that was a beautiful reading. Thank you, Emily. And it's an honor to be here with you also, Annis. I usually like to say something like, it's good to be here. But here is home right now, and it doesn't always feel so good to be here. But it's amazing how, even with this looming coronavirus, we're so adaptable, and we can do something like this. It's very special, and I'm really feeling good about being included. And that kind of leads me into this first poem. All these poems are from a forthcoming book. They're all brand new. The book is called Where We Arrive, and it'll be out in the spring. The first one's called A Reason to Believe. It's Easter. No bonnets bobbing down Fifth Avenue. No children in the park running and squealing, balancing tricolored plastic eggs, swaying small yellow woven baskets. Nothing but empty churches, rows of idle pews, the sanctuary lamps hanging in darkness, Easter candles unlit. The television and radio call for sheltering, social distancing. The crows pay no attention. Cavorting and overcrowded gangs squawking all over the neighborhood. I'm amazed by their arrogance, their bristling blue-black feathers, as they dance like the devil. Still, the hyacinths hold on in the garden path. The bare spuds on the tips of the maples begin to show promise. Soon, the geese will be redirected in their migration northward, trailing the sky with the sound of trombones. Yes, this one's entitled, My Grandmother's Name Was May. What would I know of her early years, her childhood friends, the girls she confided with at school, the boys she fell in love with? They say she was a card at parties, played the spoons on her knees in flashes of silver, started sales at 14, suffered the great pandemic of 1918, held my grandfather's hand to the last, opened the bedroom window to let in fresh air. After the stroke, she became aphasic and spoke in beautiful, indecipherable streams of words. It was my first contact with poetic language. She spoke as one who lives on the horizon, muttering lucid sounding lines with proper form, but no comprehensible meaning. She was a hardworking woman who smoked 3 packs of Pall Malls a day. Years later, when May was in the hospital, I played her a recording of Dylan Thomas reading from Under Milkwood. Thomas's voice rattled through the antiseptic air. About a minute into the tape, my grandmother turned to me and said, "Is that the kind of crap they teach you in college?" These were the first coherent words she had uttered in years. You know, with the news just totally crowded with the virus, there were so many important issues that are being crowded out, and we can't forget them. One of them, the one that's very important to me, is the situation with the migrants at our southern border. And so this poem is based on that. And it's called Little Birds. The same stars as yesterday are still unraveling, blinking their platinum and copper signals through the milieu of time. As the shadow from the chain link fencing gathers around them, the children are restless under their silver blankets. A few still awake sob in muted tones. Jose Alejandro Escobar raises the metal cup to Consuela's lips and remembers the Rio Grande, the startling water cascading over the rocks. His father's words disappearing, then returning in a bubbly ebb. Calance chavos que viene la migra. Hurry, guys, the Border Patrol is about. It was because of his dawdling that they came, the Border Patrol in their astonishing black uniforms. If it weren't for those damnable starlings and their incessant chatter, their dappled wings sparkling in the sunlight, he knew he could capture them in the pages of his sketchbook. The starlings were scruffed and tawny as they shook their heads at the river's edge. So different from the birds back home in Guatemala, the brilliant quetzal robed in turquoise, the keel-billed toucans dipping in the Las Serenas fountain in Antigua, the pink-headed warblers darting in and out of the brilliant bougainvillea in the same plaza where even now the cartel and roving gangs spray their unmistakable taggings of red and black. At the border crossing in Juarez, they were told there was no more room. His mother lowered her eyes, and his father admonished Jose, never let go of your sister's tiny hand. Now, as the early light begins to illuminate the cage, he holds Consuela in his arms, closes his eyes, and again they are following the migrant trail that snakes across the desert. He's wearing a bandana tucked under his ball cap to protect his face and neck from the scorching sun. His flimsy sneakers are no match for the thorny chola pods that easily pierce foam rubber soles, while ahead he can see the clump of Palo Verde trees providing some rare shade and the comforting sound of his mother's voice. Ocean Paddler. I'm strolling along the beach this cold, bleak morning, the pale seagrass bending in the wind. When there, up ahead in the lustrous surf, I see a kayaker, sleek as a seal, cutting through the waves, lifting his paddle to the broken sunlight. I'm approaching 73, agile as an easy chair. But this is where the longing starts, the yearning for another life. The one where I'm lean and muscular, where I shoulder my kayak, stride into the waves, and in one fluid movement, lift myself into the seat, then over the breakers. I'm waiting for the vessel to right when I'm pulled into a series of surging riffs, water brimming across the invisible bow, the kayak moving on its own accord, then settling into a more even flow. I dip the paddle counterbalancing my weight, leaning into the sea's wake, now one with the kayak, wind at my back, paddling through a spitting drizzle in an endless straight line as I push through the emerald chop into a plateau of silence. This one's closer to my father than even I can believe. It reminds me so much of him. I was surprised I even wrote it. It's called The Old Red Wool Coat. It was never anything special, simply an old wool coat that my father wore, one that seemed to adapt to his every moment. Sometimes he reached for a Chesterfield from the folded pocket, or a shiny lure when he was fishing, a swallowtail or a niggle to drop in the deep mystery of the American river. Maybe it gave him a sense of who he was, threading through life as he lumbered down a street at the far end of town, under the telephone wires, over the girder bridge, where the space between the foot planks revealed the rushing water below, walking away from one malaise to another, the ones that were there no matter what he tried to do about it. I remember once at the dinner table, I noticed a brass button missing from the broad hem of his coat. It caught my attention, but I was afraid to ask. Years later, after he died from a failed heart, my mother told me he had tied the button to his line as a makeshift spinner on a fly-by-night fishing trip.
Comparing that to the last presidential primary in 2016, overall turnout was about 54%. Of course, these last 24 hours.
Sorry, that was a newcomer. Got him muted.
Oh,
Sorry,
that's
Tom.
fine. Good to have you there, or here. This poem is about my brother. And I've got to tell you a little bit about my brother, Jim. He has that vagabond spirit. He's often on the road. My nieces call him Uncle Tumbleweed. And anyway, it's about him. And this poem was actually done quite well. I just won a prize with it. It's called He Wakes Up Every Morning to the Bray of Wild Burros. There's an epigraph. The wilderness and the dry land shall be glad. The desert shall rejoice. Isaiah 35. My brother writes from his hammock in the desert, says the evening blush has gone from red to magenta, says Yuma's tough terrain is now soft with color, the smell of sage. Sparrows follow one another across the sky. He says this is a place where clouds are easily confused with mountains, where the occasional raptor reminds him of his proper size. He's not afraid of rattlesnakes or being alone. There's a simple satisfaction in the glow of a cigarette, the last light of the stars sputtering like a dying campfire, watching the Chihuahuan moon drift gently away from Jupiter, the Seguro cactus fading into the landscape. And when it's time to dim the lights on his camper, the night wind lulls him to sleep while the wild burros scuttle in the underbrush. And he dreams the incomprehensible dream of another day, knowing there's so much to live for, so much one can live without. And this is the last poem. It's called Taking the Long View. And I had fun incorporating my two dogs into this poem. So here we go. Taking the long view. Now, while you are asleep, I'm awake on the back deck watching the moon's pale luster, the pines casting their shadows on the cascades. I simply want to drift to the edges of night, not knowing or remembering my name, not wishing to be seen or unseen, alive only to the movement of an itinerant owl gliding across the field, the acrid scent of smoldering leaves. I've been told that I shouldn't stay up so late, leaning back in my rattan chair, lighting another cigarette, petting the dogs. Penny stretches along the cedar planks. Sam turns his face upward toward the kitchen window's glow, then eases back into himself. How many times have I studied them, wishing I could forget myself and understand the beauty of their existence. Take the day in stride, take the long view. When I least expect it, a coyote howls in pure delight over the hills. A sudden gasp of wind pulls from the south, brushing across the slender line of trees that follow the river. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Tom. Very good. Wow, it's a great attendance. Thank you all so much for coming. Let's see what we got. Great imagery. Somebody said birds in Bougainvillea, two of my favorites. I said he does have a way with birds. Never let go of the time.
It's for the birds.
Great. Somebody wrote Uncle Tumbleweed. The last two lines are genius. Thank you, Tom. Well, we'll come back to the chat later, but let's get to Annis right now. Let me unmute her. Let me mute Tom. You ready, Annis?
I am.
Give it to us, please.
Don't slice my bread. Measured segments bore me. The best we can hope for, a yeast bubble or slight deviation in height. Uniformity restrains. Let me gouge boulders, catch crumbs, inhale the yeasty aroma of finger-held fissures oozing melted butter. Let me delight in haphazard hunks, leave none untried, untested, skirted, or ignored. Let me taste it all in its simplicity, in its complexity, in stale or fresh, life's staff and stuff. This poem was inspired by a trip to the Coos Bay market, farmer's market one Wednesday, when we were buying bread and we were asked, would you like that bread sliced? And the friend who was with me, she and I both had said at the same time, don't slice my bread. I said, well, that sounds like a poem. This next one is the title poem from my book, You Can't Have It All. You can't have it all, but you can have the wide canvas hammock strung between two trees like a ship out to sea on your grandparents' hillside. You can have the giggles of babies, daughters, and nieces sharing a tub overflowing with toys and bubbles. You can have topsail sunrises and Morro Rock sunsets. You can speak a foreign language and sometimes get the very thing you thought you ordered. You can't have June and Ward Cleaver, but you can have your dad wearing only shaving cream and boxers and your mom wondering what to cook for dinner. You can have 50 years of the first day of school. You can have the Mediterranean breeze brushing your breasts on a topless beach in Nice. You can have the hum of a motorcycle and the expanse of the open road beckoning you to follow your passion for new places. And you can have the arms of loved ones enfold you as you arrive and depart. You can connect with a childhood friend and feel 45 years dissolve into nothing. You can have the dream of a wooden dance floor in Barcelona and you in costume dancing the flamenco. You can have arm-in-arm beach walks, crossword puzzles, the mist off Niagara Falls, and fireflies in quart jars. You can have growing old, loving and loved. And when adulthood fails you and you think that no one cares, you can still call forth the memory of that catch in your father's voice, his unexpected expression of tenderness and love. And when you arrived home from school, your mother was always home to listen. There is the voice you can still summon from your depths. It will always whisper, "You can't have it all, but there is this."
Awesome, Annis. Think we needed that one.
Hey, man. The next one is about about an experience with my grandma. Her name was Annie Castles. She said Castles. First taste. The Cassell's home place cellar, earthen floored, must scented, raven aired. Grandma Annie Castles and 10-year-old me. We heave worn wooden doors, throw daylight underground, pick our way down brick slab steps, stand still, let our eyes adjust. She leads, bound for thick, unpainted plank shelves, jammed against an uneven patched wall. She reaches for a dusty jug amongst canned pickles, peaches, beets. She pours a half-pint jelly jar 1/4 full. Grape juice. She savors a dark liquid sip. Ah. She passes the almost empty vessel to me. She cautions, "Just a little now." Makes you feel warm inside. She stretches knobby fingers for the rest of the jar as the jar leaves my lips. We ascend, hugging peach and pickle jars, silent glances, sealing our secret. And so Grandma is responsible for the many, many wine bottles in my recycling bin nowadays. Okay. I come from a line of strong women, and this one's about my mom. Mama drove. He always drove, my dad. It was what the man did. So when Mama said, "Shall I drive?" and he nodded yes, she shrugged a chill. Slick March morning roads urged caution, but she drove. Dropped him at the door in the nick of time, because not 1 minute after she slid into the rigid seat beside him and he nodded yes when she asked if the doctor was in that morning, his eyes rolled upward. Dad lurched forward onto the waiting room floor. Right there while she watched. Right there while she watched, her life spun out of control. Over slick March morning roads, Mama followed the ambulance. Her own chest lead heavy, mouth dry. Mama waited until Dr. Whomever broke the news, broke her heart. You can't drive yourself, ma'am. The hell I can't." At the funeral home, Mama's expression aloof. She only half listened to the hard sell pitch. "Which one do you like?" "None. I just happen to need one." Not until Dad left us did we kids recognize the straightness of her spine, the resilience of her spirit, the rock-steady strength Mama had inside. Thank you. So now I'm going to read a few of the new ones that I've written. They're not in the book, but they'll be in the next book, okay? So this one is called Returning Home. Our Coos Bay apartment awaited us. Our best friend's handmade welcome banner affixed to the fern green door. Judy slid the key into the lock. The place had paused just as we'd left it. Chairs huddled beneath plastic drop cloths, assorted rain jackets crammed in closets, A1 sauce and mustard in the fridge. We needed to clean, restock the pantry, and hook up the cable, but we were home. Our knickknacks and books, funky artwork on the walls, the leather Craigslist love seat, fresh towels we bought last year. Home croons to me of childhood, times forgotten and remembered, game nights over dominoes and cards, schoolwork, apple pies, and lentil soup on the lemon yellow Formica table. Home, a sense of belonging, a warmth I feel in my core, a comfort like being wrapped in my mother's soft flannel robe, scooped up and hugged. Thank you. So the artist, Coos Bay artist Elaine Dunham had a show last year at Black Market Gourmet, and the title of her show was Setting Her Own Limits. And I had been in the market for postcards at that time, and she put out a postcard to advertise her show, and I saw that title, and that inspired this poem, her title. She never learned the art of setting limits. In her day, the woman had no say about what she would, could, should, or must not do. Sheep-like, she followed, performed steadfast as a trained elephant, met each expectation. But when she reached crone age, recognized her stature, honored her wisdom, owned her power, she spoke up, said no to everyone's surprise, said yes to limitless adventure, carved the rest of her days with her own knife. A lot of my poems are inspired by things that have actually happened to me or to someone I know. And this one is called Bearing Witness. The red light whirled and flashed on this residential tree-lined street. Not my normal route, but a diversion, a road less taken. The vested officer shimmered in the noontime heat, loomed tall beside the driver's window of a maroon Mini Cooper. The driver's license in hand, he retreated to his silver and white Beverly Hills Police Department SUV. I strolled past the cop and the car, glanced over to see a young Black man who'd been driving, a young Asian woman in the passenger's seat, both silent. His jaw clenched, hands gripped the wheel. She held herself tight, arms around her waist, rocked back and forth. I acknowledged them with a nod and, hey there, as I passed. 50 yards further, in an oasis of shade, I took out my phone, brought up the camera, and waited while the scene played out. A second officer car approached. The two armed officers strutted in sync, surrounded the Mini Cooper. Rooted to the steaming asphalt, I stood beneath that tree, focused, held my packages and my breath, released it once the officer presented the ticket. The driver signed, handed it back. The Mini Cooper remained still for 12 heartbeats, gradually inched away from the curb, headed in my direction, stopped beside me. The young driver met my gaze, reached out the window, shook my hand. Thank you. Thank you for waiting, because the outcome could have been very different. made me think of Amelie's poem. Nothing to think about. I don't have to think about that. This one is called We Are Not Heroes. We are not heroes, but survivors, weaned on lumps of coal among life's sugar. We gleaned ancestors' lessons on the artistry of survival. We learned to travel life's silent ponds, its streams, its rivers, even its Niagaras, sometimes with grace. And I always like to finish with this poem. My whole career has been that of teaching and encouraging, and I'm a life coach. And this poem is called Resilience. The crush comes swiftly, suffocating, devastating. In that moment of fragility, of vulnerability, frenzied heart thumps, pumping blood to your uncomprehending brain. The crush lifts slowly, it just takes time. Watch for the return of life, not as you once knew it, but new and good. You begin to rise, and if you can't yet stand tall, step forward, or faint sideways, dig into the earth with one elbow, then the other. Drag yourself an inch or two ahead like the downed soldier you are. Whatever it takes, know you are enough. Watch for the return of life, not as you once knew it, but new and good and worth the effort. Baby steps or inch by inch, it's all forward. And in that moment when passion returns, overruns the heart's hysteria, overtakes the clouded over brain, you see the light, the path to acceptance, to peace within yourself. You know you are enough to overcome whatever comes. Thank you, Paul, for organizing this, and thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure to read with you, Amelie and Tom, and appreciate everyone being here. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Anis. That was awesome. And Emily and Tom, too. I'm just so stoked with this whole event. It's gone so much better than I even planned. I planned on being good, but I appreciate all. Hold on. I want to unmute everybody in case people want to talk or have questions. Just a second. This might get a little crazy. Did that work? Can you guys unmute yourselves via the three dots?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and
Okay.
unmute yourselves. For some reason, the mute all is stuck on mute all. And then I'm going to go back here. Wait, where was I? Hold on.
Okay.
There we go.
There we are.
Unmuted.
Oh, that was very powerful. Thank you for the invite.
Yes, thanks for coming.
Thank you all.
And see, I think Julie and her friend had we're on the right track. You know, this is the only time you can come to the library and drink wine.
We should have known, Julie.
Remember that. You can drink at our virtual events. Nice. As long as you don't get unruly.
Only the cat was getting unruly on this side.
But that was entertaining. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I would just like to say, Anis, I love that last poem. That's a good one to end with.
Thank you. Thank you.
Agreed.
I like the other two, but that one was really good.
You know, I've gotten so much good feedback from people on that poem. And almost every time I read it, Amelie, someone says, I really needed to hear that poem today. And so, you know, this is a time when we can all use a little pump up on resilience.
Yes.
I'm probably going to mispronounce this, but I think it's Key Jimenez wrote, the last poem was perfect for a moment like now.
That's Chu.
Yeah.
That's my friend Chu Jimenez.
Oh, Chu, thank you. Yeah, somebody said powerful words. Sandy said, reminds me of it taking 4 times to pass algebra. I'm not sure which poem she's talking.
Resilience.
Gotta be
and-
resilient.
Oh, of course, of course. What was the second to last one called, Annis?
Was it We Are Not Heroes?
Yes, very good.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Another very relevant poem for right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And this is Mary Margaret, and I wanted to say that while not being in person lacks a certain ambiance, what I'm hoping is many times when I am in the throes of teaching kindergarten, muster the energy to come to the library for poetry readings during a weeknight. And if things go back to a kind of more normal, if things could be provided virtually simultaneously, I would be able to participate more often.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
Mhm.
an idea. It's something we're all gonna be
Don't
looking
worry,
at.
Mary Margaret. I think we're going to be doing virtual programs from here on out. Even once this comes down. I mean, I had better attendance tonight than I probably ever had at an author event. You know.
Oh, well, it's partly because I'm just too tired to come in the middle of the week.
Sure. No, I hear you.
But I'm really loving it, and I look forward to the day that I can soak up people in person. But this was great.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Mary Margaret.
It was. And thank you for including us. And you have an audience from all over the place, which is one
So
advantage
awesome.
of this. So it's really great to see Annis, and I recognized a few other faces from Bakersfield. So that was nice. So I'm going to bow out because my poor husband thinks his poor throat has
I'm
been
almost
cut.
ready. I'm almost
All
ready.
right. Thank you, Joan.
Thank you.
But I need
Thanks,
to-
Joan, for coming.
I'm
Thank
in the middle
you.
of a poetry
Thank
reading.
you.
I would like to say hi to.
And if folks need to bail, go ahead, but we can hang out for a while and talk
No, I
too.
don't want to show you my table.
I just want to say hi to my brother Ron over there, the kind of shadowy guy there.
Oh, hi, Ron. Thanks for coming.
He's near Tillamook, a little farther north than you are.
Oh, nice. But still on the coast.
Yeah.
This has been great.
It was delightful. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Yes, thank you. And like I said, we're going to probably be doing more stuff like this in the future. This was awesome.
Yeah.
Tom, you mentioned your book is coming out in the spring. This is spring. Do you mean
No,
now?
Spring of 2021.
Okay. So we can look for it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thanks for the
And
plug.
for those that are local, we have poetry books by Annis and Tom in the library, and we also have the latest anthology that Amelie edited called Terra Incognita. But there's also info at the top of the chat box if you want to go to their website or email them for copies of their books. Usually at these events, I let authors afterwards go to their own tables, sell, sign their work, and continue talking with the crowds. And that's the only unfortunate part of this platform is they can't come and bring their books and sell them. So if you like their work, please support these artists, especially during these times. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We sure appreciate you.
Thank you. You're
Yes.
always
you.
Thanks
You.
all.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you very much.
Especially you poets. That was awesome.
It's good to see Paul and Tom and Annis for real.
Yes.
Wait, who said that?
Emily said that.
Oh, Amelie. Okay. Yes, it's finally good to finally see you, Amelie. Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Bye, friends.
for doing this.
Thank you.
And you guys can find me through the library if you want to access the recording or the chat or something like that. Just give me a holler.
Okay.